Make sure that the pulley has been prepared properly. All lagging must be removed and the pulley sandblasted, including the edges of the pulley. Immediately following the sandblasting, a metal primer should be applied to the surface of the pulley. Make sure that you also paint the edges of the pulley with the metal primer. Once the pulley is completely dry, you can cover the pulley with a cloth or begin installation of the lagging. It is important to protect the pulley surface after it is prepared. Also, never touch the primer coat or coats of adhesives on the pulley or lagging with your hand. This may transfer contaminants to the surface, causing problems with the bond in the future. Cut the wrap off of the sides of the rolls of lagging and use a grinding wheel to rough up both edges of the lagging strips. Clean these areas with compressed air to remove all rubber particles. Use a solvent only if grease or other contaminant is present. Make sure that any solvent is cleaned off of the pulley prior to beginning the installation of lagging. Some people prefer to buff the edges after unrolling the strips of lagging. Either method is fine. To get the best bond, buff the bottom sides of the strips of lagging also. Make sure that the strips of lagging are cut to the proper length. Ceramic lagging is purchased in the correct length. Rubber lagging should be cut at least 4 inches wider than the pulley face. This provides a small handle to hold onto and also allows you to align the diamond squares across the pulley face. When you are ready to begin, mix the adhesive and coat the entire pulley face with the first coat of adhesive. Use a short bristled, stiff brush for this, working the adhesive into the surface. Keep in mind that temperature, humidity, direct sun, and wind can affect the setup time for the adhesive. In most cases, adhesive that is properly set up should slightly stick to the back of your hand. Check your manufacturer's directions for their recommendations. Also, coat the buff bottom and edges of lagging, allowing the first coat of adhesive to dry completely. This step can be performed at any time. For example, you can paint the strips of lagging in the shop, place wax paper between them after they have dried, and later move them on site. Draw a line across the face of the pulley perpendicular to the direction of rotation. Here, we are using a level to determine this perpendicular line. You may select an alternative option. Do not contact the pulley surface with your hand. Approximate a distance equal to the width of 2 strips of lagging from this square line around the pulley. A little longer is fine. Coat this area with a second coat of adhesive. And also coat the bottom and edges of 2 strips of lagging. When the appropriate tagginess of the adhesive is reached, install the first piece of lagging using the line that is drawn on the pulley surface. Use a stitching wheel to stitch or roll the lagging into position. Place the second strip of lagging against the first piece, making sure to stitch the edges of the lagging together. Use a dead blow hammer, rubber mallet, or pneumatic sand rag, and make sure that all air pockets are removed across the entire edge. From this point, continue around the pulley, estimating the area of 1 to 2 strips, painting with adhesive, applying lagging, etc., until you have 3 or 4 strips of lagging that is not installed. At some point during installation, you must cut off the material that is overhanging the pulley edge, making sure not to loosen the lagging. Cut off only the pieces that have been installed the longest. Take several pieces of these cut-offs and see how they fit onto the remainder of the pulley. Trim the remaining pieces as equally as possible, making sure that they fit into the space left over. Trim the remaining strips of lagging as you did with the sample pieces. Remember to buff the trimmed edges of the lagging strips. We always recommend that you test the fit of the last piece before applying your adhesive. Use a rubber filler to fill any gaps in the seams of lagging. Check the manufacturer's directions for the drying time required. Store the pulley properly. Never support a pulley on its surface. Never roll a pulley on its surface. If you are not going to put the pulley into service very soon, wrap it in paper to protect it.